Hey, welcome to the show, Leading and Growing Your Real Estate Business. This is Coach James Short, aka Shorty. And this is a show for those within the real estate industry wanting to lead and grow their real estate business. It's a series of interviews that we conduct for those within the industry. So we're finding out what those leaders are within the industry, what makes them tick, what's their story, what are their strategies, and how to become the leaders and the growers within the industry. But also, it's an interview series with those outside of the industry. I'm always a big believer of looking at a whole different part of the pie rather than just focusing on one part of the pie. Because what it does, it allows you to have a different perspective, allows you to get snippets or golden nuggets from those outside of the industry that can look in the industry and go, there's a different perspective. And so I encourage you to reach out to the guests. I encourage you to lean into these series to find out how can these pieces of information, experiences, stories help you lead and grow your real estate business. Oh my goodness, we have royalty in the house, ladies and gentlemen. Julie Davis, woo-hoo-hoo, empowering success, leadership, and team growth coach and expert. Julie's a pioneering force in coaching and workforce transformation, dedicates her expertise to empowering individuals, teams, and businesses in the real estate industry to realize their full potential. With a firm belief in courage, passion, and targeted effort, she commits herself to turning business leaders and professionals into true industry leaders. Fantastic. Her mission centers around facilitating transformative growth and enhancing collaboration within organizations. Fundamental to her approach is the innovative contribution compass profiling platform, which is an adept at identifying and harnessing the natural strengths and energies of individuals and teams for organizational success. It is an honor and a privilege to have her on the show today. Julie, welcome, 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 and thank you for your time.
That was quite a wrap. Thank you. Thank you, James.
Yeah, we had a chat, Julie. We had a chat, Julie, the other day, and we could be speaking for hours and hours and hours. There's so much to cover, and it's so good to have you on the show today. But
Thank you.
talk to me about where did the coaching begin? Like, what was those beginnings, and
Yeah.
how did you venture into the world of coaching?
Well, my background is in real estate, so it was sort of like in the late 90s, I think 96 or something, that I actually got into the industry and thought I'll give this a crack and see how I go. And I remember saying to my husband, well, if I don't sell a house in a year, I'll quit. And I actually sold 50 houses in my
Oh
first.
my goodness.
So, I think that, and I guess this is why I'm so passionate about people playing to their strengths. If you play to your strengths, the skill will come, but you've got to be authentic to who you are, and that's what I did. And the rest is sort of history. That was in the Canberra market. And then we relocated to the Gold Coast in 2001, and we bought management rights. So that was my property management stint. So we had that for 6 years. Never heard of schoolies until we moved to the Gold Coast. That was a baptism of fire.
Wow.
And from there, I worked with Michael Sheargold for about 3 or 4 years, heading up his agent coaching, which is just wonderful to have the opportunity to work with him. He's absolutely a master. And then went on and formed our own business. And that was about 15 years ago now. So, but it is foundational to everything that we do. Is we really like to, identify the strengths that someone has that they will bring, and have that particularly in their recruitment practices in terms of building upon that, which is really important.
So important. And I want to dive straight into that. Like, it's so important for people to find their strengths. But what happens for those who don't know what their strengths are? What can be the setbacks or the challenges around someone not knowing what their strengths are?
They normally die pretty unhappy, would be the first thing.
Pretty drastic, isn't it?
They normally don't it's normally like they live a lot in regret, but they actually don't really know what they're good at. So I think what's a really critical thing is the skill and strengths, two different things. So the strengths are something that you're innately born with, and something that that you had with the child, but it becomes unlearned as we start fitting in or doing a job just based on skill level. And then quite often we'll find someone who is that they're exceptionally good at what they do, but they will move on because if you look at Maslow's hierarchical needs, the pyramid right at the very top is self-actualization. And so it's really, that we as humans seek to have a sense of contribution and a sense of fulfillment. So we often will see within organizations of, I call it, full pockets, empty heart.
Mm.
And unless we actually own both the time and the hearts of people who are working with us and have them in fulfilling jobs that are meaningful and that they can make a contribution, is that they will leave until they find something. And environment is really, really critical. I've seen many, many people who've struggled in one environment and totally excelled in another. And this is where leadership is so important, and actually knowing in terms how to lead your team, and to actually, if you go right back, is being strategic in terms of your recruitment practices of having the right people in the right roles in the first place.
So true. And there's so many different avenues I'd love to dive into, but I want to stay on the strengths factor at the moment. Like if you're out there listening to this, how does one go about really self-reflecting and identifying one's strengths? And what can we do about those strengths?
Yeah, great question, James. I think it's what we if you ask the people around you and say, what do I do that is of value to you?
Ooh,
Right?
good question.
Because often, just as human beings, is we never actually see how great we are. And if we're doing things that are easy for us, we don't actually put a lot of value on them.
Mm.
Whereas other people will really value what we bring to the table. But for us, it's easy and it's nothing. So, it is really the path of least resistance, and it's what lights you up and what's easy for you.
Love it. That's a great point because I think that then stems into being in that flow state where things just open up, and then it's so important. And I think that question around asking others how, what are the benefits and how do
Mm,
I be of
mm.
service? It's such a powerful question. I love it. Um,
Yeah.
let's talk about leadership because I love this topic. Where do you think real estate principals or even managers fall down in their leadership today? Hey guys, just a little side note here. How's it going? Are you on track this year? I know that sometimes this part of the year we can feel like we're in a bit of a grind, a bit of in the trenches. Are you on track from the original plans that you set out for the rest of this year? What I've realized is that between with this time of year, we get so distracted and we've got trying to chase so many shiny balls and go down so many rabbit holes. And that's why I created a program called the 90. It's a framework that actually allows you to achieve more in 90 days than ever before. Some of the feedback that we've got from some of the people that have used the process, the 90, is that they've achieved more in 90 days than the whole previous year. So if you'd like to have the tools, have the techniques, have the framework on the 90, so you and your team can achieve more in 90 days than ever before. What it does, and it impacts you of how to get clear, what you need to do, and who you need to be to show up in order to achieve the things you want to achieve over the next 90 days. Simply head over to jamesshort.com.au, click on join the waitlist, fill in your details, and one of the team members will be in touch and take you through the 90 framework. On with the show.
I think, we've got a really interesting industry, and the majority, and I'm saying once again, you probably go back to the 80-20 rule, have come and they've been salespeople who thought it would be easy to open an agency. Particularly, they might say, well, I'm writing, $1 million. I'll just get another five people, right? And that'll
Just
be
put
a
him in the
happy,
seat. Just
happy
put him in the
day.
seat.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
so, but when you're going in terms of like into people management and having that responsibility as you do as a leader, to guide and mentor those in your team, your role actually changes completely.
Mm.
And so for those who are very strong in a sales suit, not necessarily great in a leadership. And the other thing is often they are also very much um motivated by recognition and reward. And when you go in and you're a business owner, you've got to transfer that recognition and reward to other people, and you may not necessarily be getting it yourself.
Yes. Very true, right? It
So
is a
I think,
transition, isn't it?
yeah. And look, I think the first thing is we lose so many really good people in our industry because we're not strategic enough in terms of really looking at our recruitment or our team growth in terms of how do we find the best person for the job. And I do understand it's a reactionary industry,
Yep.
but sometimes it's like if you've got a heartbeat or a pulse, we'll put you in a chair and we'll just see how you go.
And hope for the best.
Right? And hope for the best. And hope is not a really good strategy.
It's not. It's not.
And
So you've talked about recruitment and strategy. So if I was listening to this, if I was a listener to hear, what would be a couple of things to help, if they're owning an agency, business owner, what would be some of the things that they could start to look at and start to plan for their strategy and for the recruitment? Because as you said, to get the right people in the
yeah.
right seat.
Well, the first thing is I've got a great webinar that we did called Talent Tug of War, which is on my website. So go and
Great.
grab that. The second thing is that what we need to look at, and this comes down to strategic planning and, as a business owner of really forward thinking in terms of who do you need, how do you need to grow your business. I think the first thing is to skill yourself in basic business principles.
Yep.
In understanding that would be the first thing, because typically we go in with a sales mentality rather than having that broader scope of a business mentality, and particularly when it comes to being a director of a company. And we just recently ran a director effectiveness program in terms of you need to understand what your duties are in terms of being a director of a company. So I think there's three really critical factors. And the first thing that we look at is we need to be really clear on our culture. And I don't mean words on the wall.
Yep.
Okay. I mean what was actually lived within the culture of our business. What are the standards that we have in our business? And then the second thing is we go, is this person going to be suitable for the role? Not in terms of skill, but in terms of sustainability. And this is where I come in and we look at it when we profile, and we use profiling as a tool, is that we can see quite easily potentially what's going to happen with that person. And I think one thing, like we're in sort of a honeymoon period the first 3 months in employment, but then after that, we start seeing people going into some looping patterns. So to know that on day one is really helpful to be aware of. And the third thing is skill. Now, I think a really critical thing is that's not typically done in the industry is to skills test.
Yep.
Okay, so let's
Great
say it's a
point.
property management job. Is go, okay, let's jump on, and you say that in your resume, greatest work of fiction, that you're very skilled at doing this, this, and this, and this, and you understand this program and this platform. Well, let's jump on the computer and have a look.
Love
Okay, because
that. Why don't people do that?
I don't know, it's the most simplest thing. So we look at, what's the character of that person? Would we be
Yep.
proud to have them within the organization? Is that person going to have longevity? Is that going to be a job that's going to light that person up?
Mm.
And where are they at with their skill? So their skill could be low, but if 1 and 2 are ticked, skill's easy. We'll train.
Yep.
We'll train it. And so they're the most critical things in terms of that you look at. Investing and looking at and saying, where are we sitting? Who have I got in my team? How? Because we think, sadly, sometimes we think that everyone thinks the same. And there's 4 very distinct communication styles,
Yep.
and each of those have a driver. And if we need to know what drives someone, because what some people they're driven by recognition and reward. Others are driven by like really feeling valued. So when that comes in terms of, your onboarding, it's really critical. to give people the success part that they need. Often I've heard of someone come in and they didn't turn up for day two because
Oh,
of day one's experience, right? So
gosh.
think about, I think, the funny thing is that we've got a value proposition in the market when we want to sell a house. We've got a value proposition when we go and we want to gain a new management. There is no value proposition for the team that we want to attract.
Mm.
And it's a super
Why do you
competitive.
think that is though? Why do you think there's such a disconnect around where they
I
see
think
the
they don't,
value?
I think they don't think about it.
Yeah, okay. Interesting.
Okay.
Mm.
And this is work that really needs to be done in saying, why would somebody choose me? So now at the moment on Seek, there's over 4,000 property management jobs on
Ooh,
Seek,
wowza.
right? And so during COVID, we lost a lot of providence in our industry because people are burnt out.
Yeah.
And so it's how do we lead and appreciate? I've got clients that have got the most incredible businesses with the most stable team, and there's so much respect both ways. And
Yeah.
I do think that people are commoditized.
Mm.
And I think if you don't have, a strategy for recruitment, and that's we give you the tools to do that, because when you look at the cost of a wrong hire, it's the
Huge.
HR Institute say it's 1.5 times their salary.
Yeah, it's crazy, isn't it?
Yeah,
Absolutely crazy.
absolutely.
And that's not just the financial cost, but that's also the time, the energy,
Yeah.
all those, yeah, all that process.
And dynamically, a team changes when
Yeah.
either somebody exits or when somebody enters. So it's that repositioning of that team.
Yep.
And we just need to create an environment that we foster growth, we foster responsibility, like even so much as having what's our standards agreement for the business? What's our expectations?
Yep.
Because I remember, in my day, is there was a lot of accountability and there's not a lot of accountability now.
Why do you think it's changed? What's that? Why do you think that accountability piece has changed?
I think particularly when people say, well, someone's on, com only or whatever, or I don't want to rock the boat because it's too
Right.
hard to replace that person. As human beings, we need boundaries and we need to have accountability. But the accountability should be around their goals, right? And what they want to achieve.
Yep. So
Because
true.
it's, I think one thing that business owners need to understand is that your team are your clients,
Yep. 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 That can you
right?
repeat that again? Because that's such an important point for everyone. Lean in, everyone. Hear this again,
Yeah,
please.
your team are your clients, right? And they're going to give you like however 40 hours a week, every week. They've got, that you want them to be profit centers of your business. And when we have either high team turnover or disengaged teams, it just makes such an impact, like in terms of culture, but also in terms of profitability.
Yep. So true. So true. So Julie, do you think where do you see the industry going? Where do you see some of the big changes or some of the big transitions over the next number of years? Do you see massive changes or do you see just it keep on rolling over?
Well, I think, so much with so many external things have happened in our world that we can't control.
Yep.
And so I think it is like, show up being the best version of yourself. Okay. Be really clear when you want someone to come into your business of what your expectations are and what that role looks like. And be consistent in your voice.
Mm. Yeah,
Okay. We
fantastic.
see so much inconsistency, and
Yep.
actually understand your people of what experience they need to have.
Great idea.
But I think, in any company, it always comes down to leadership. Okay.
Yep.
But it's all what are the levels under that in terms of what experience they create, for their team, and what environment. When we want to build loyalty and consistency, we have to be the leaders and we've got to provide that infrastructure in terms of having all of those things in place.
Yeah, great. And in relations to that leadership piece, where do you what's, I guess, one or two strategies that someone can do to develop their leadership skills and abilities?
Well, I think, and I'll always go back, in terms of profiling, whether it's my profiling platform or whether it's someone else, is actually know yourself, know where your strengths are, but also know where your challenges are, and build a team around that are going to help you with your challenges. Okay. Because the thing is, we can't be one thing, we can't be all things to all people.
So
And
true.
we do see people that they're all rounders, but they actually diminish themselves and what they could be achieving and what they could be bringing to their business. So it's really looking at is what, number one is what is, what's going to make my heart sing, right? What you
Coming back to the strengths, right?
let me exactly. And
Yeah.
we look at it, and so many business owners have fallen out of love with their business.
Yep. Yep. So true. So
And
true.
in my platform that I have, just give myself a little plug here, in
Yeah.
my AD360 is the whole premise is to number one is to be an enviable leader and have
Love
your
it.
team, be a profit center of your business. But because they want to be there and that you've got them in the right roles and that you're leading them and you're creating an environment where they want to stay.
Love it. So true. So true.
Yeah.
Julie, on our show, we have our 60-second quiz to find out a little bit more about our guests. Are you willing to play?
Okay, I'm up for that.
Oh, here we go. Cool, cool, cool. All right, here we go. Favorite movie?
Favorite movie would be The Greatest Showman.
Nice. Love it. Favorite food?
Or can I say chocolate?
Sure.
Um, roast dinner. Can't beat roast.
Roast dinner. So good. Favorite holiday destination?
Mm. Somewhere on a cruise ship, sailing the world.
Beautiful. Do you have a morning routine?
I do. Gratitude, puppy cuddles,
Beautiful. What about an
and
evening route? Oh, yeah. More?
yeah, and it's
Yep.
normally cuddle with my grandkids as well.
Oh, beautiful. What about an evening routine?
An evening routine, normally of an evening, it's just really chill down. I might listen to a podcast. I try not to have too much screen time, which is sometimes can be a bit challenging, but it's just really my wind down time. But once again, just gratitude in terms of how fortunate I am and how many blessings I have in my life. And to get
Beautiful.
up every day and do something I absolutely love.
Yeah, beautiful. And do you have a most embarrassing moment?
Oh, most embarrassing moment. Well, I have probably a really interesting one, James, that happened on Thursday night, which was not so much embarrassing, but it was a moment of, I guess you could call it shame,
Okay.
in that, and it's very mindful for anyone listening. I had my two granddaughters who are two. I've got twins. I've got 2-year-old twins, and then I've got another 2-year-old who decided they would go into Nanny's bed, and they found a little bottle of sleeping tablets
Yep.
and got the lid off, and I ended up in critical care on Friday night
Oh,
and
wow.
Saturday after ingesting these tablets. And
Wow.
so that for me, it was an innocent mistake, but it was just like a massive moment for me of, that when you have something that in your life that you wish you could totally change, but thank goodness they're perfectly fine and back to themselves. And I'm still popular in the family.
Good.
But that was probably not so much embarrassing, but it's probably one of those moments in your life that you wish you hadn't happened.
Yeah. Well,
And
thank you. Thank you for sharing.
also to oops, sorry, I just lost my screen here.
Oh, good.
Also to know that, one thing that we did learn is child safety locks on pill
Yes.
containers don't work. You've got to push them down and screw them. So yeah,
Got it. Got it.
yeah,
If you could choose, well, thank you for sharing that, and it's glad to hear that they're okay. So much appreciated.
yeah.
If you could choose five inspirational people to have dinner with, who would they be? They could be dead or alive.
Oh wow. Okay, that's interesting. So probably Matthew McConaughey
Mhm.
would be one. I would say my Tanja Jones, who is such an amazing inspiration to me, very well known in the industry.
Yep.
She's the epitome of everything great, that I see in a human being. We've got to have five. Well, I'd love to have another conversation with my husband who passed away 2 years ago.
Mhm.
That would be amazing to do that. And who else? Oh my gosh. I think Mother Teresa, like women particularly who have really, just created an amazing path in history that they've done good for others. And we just have so many incredible women role models on this earth. And like there could be like so many people, but this I'm not sure whether that's five, but that's all I can think of at the moment.
That's great. Fantastic. If you were Prime Minister for the day, what's one thing that you would change?
The one thing that I would change is I would have a day that everybody looked in the mirror and said, I am worthy.
I love it. Love it. And what's your best piece of advice?
My best piece of advice. My best piece of advice would be your bestest and hardest work is to work on yourself.
So good. So good. So Julie, what's coming up for you? What's on the horizon? What are some of the projects that you're
Lots and
working
lots of
on?
exciting things. We're just about to wrap up our first cohort of our AD 360 boardroom, which has
Right.
been incredible 12-week boardroom for female founders and leaders. And in that, we're launching the AD 360 brand. And in that, I have created a whole framework for business owners in terms of right through from there to give them the tools and resources within a platform when it comes from people, your recruitment right through to the exit, and everything in between, performance management, leading and managing your people, integration of Contribution Compass into your organization. So super excited about that. Uh,
Awesome. That's
and
huge. That's
and just
huge.
working with great clients.
Fantastic. And how can the audience find out more about the new platform and
Yeah.
your services? Where's the best place to send them?
Well, I would suggest that they might want to go to our website, which is either Agent Dynamics or juliedavis.com.au. We've got some great resources on there. They can, if they want to reach out to me to know anything, they can pop in to have a clarity call. But we're pretty heavy on socials as well. So if you're not on our socials, make sure you either connect with me either on LinkedIn or Facebook, and
Wonderful.
would love to have a chat.
Love it. Julie, thank you for your time. You're doing amazing things personally and within the industry and with all the beautiful people that you come in contact with. Thank you from my heart to yours. Much appreciated.
Thank you, James.